You found it by accident. An old note, a year ago. Same words you would write today. You meant it then. You mean it now. And here you are. Something quieter than failure has started to settle. Maybe this is just who I am. There's a door. You know the one. It has always been open. You have never walked through. I want to stay with that sentence. Maybe this is just who I am. Not to argue with it, because I think it might be the most honest thing you have said to yourself in a long time. And honest things deserve more than a pep talk. 23 centuries ago, a man sat down to write about virtue. He could explain almost everything: courage, justice, the good life. But one thing stopped him. He called it akrasia, the gap between knowing and doing. A person who sees the right thing clearly, who genuinely wants it, who turns around and does the opposite. He never fully solved it. Nobody has. Which means this thing you're carrying is not a personal failure. It is the oldest human problem there is. But knowing it has a name doesn't explain why. Dostoyevsky did. He created a man, brilliant, clear-eyed, precise, who could describe every one of his failures with a surgical accuracy, and kept going anyway. Not because he couldn't stop, because something in him refused to be predictable, even to himself. Dostoyevsky called it the most human thing there is, the need to prove you are not a piano key. A piano key makes the same sound every time, without choosing. Tell a person exactly what to do, to become who they want to be, and something in them resists. Not from weakness, because if the formula does the work, who changed? Augustine understood this from the inside. One of the greatest minds who ever lived, he knew exactly what his life needed to become, had known for years, and he wrote in a prayer that has survived 15 centuries, "Make me good, but not yet. Not never, not yet." He wasn't confused. He wasn't lying. He was telling the truth about two things that were both real at the same time. The part of you that wants to change and the part that wants to stay are not enemies. They are both you. And the one that stays is not always the weaker one. Think about what you would lose. Not the bad things, the familiar ones. The shape of your mornings, the version of you that the people you love have learned to read. The new version is a stranger, to them, to you. And something in you knows that strangers don't always survive. This is not failure, this is protection. The question was never why can't I change? The real question is, what am I protecting by staying? William James was 30 years old and couldn't move. Not from illness, from paralysis, the kind that comes from seeing everything too clearly and not knowing how to begin. One afternoon, he wrote one sentence, not a plan, not a resolution, just a decision about the next hour. Act as if what you do matters. He didn't believe it yet. He moved anyway. The feeling came later. It always comes later. You don't wait to become someone else before you begin. You begin, and somewhere in the moving, you become. You have been reading the cracks as evidence against yourself. In Japan, they repair broken bowls with gold. The crack is not hidden. It becomes the most visible part, because it shows the bowl was here, that it held something, that it survived. You're not behind. You're not someone who failed to change. You're someone who has been standing in front of an open door long enough to finally understand what it costs to walk through. That understanding is not nothing. That is, in fact, everything. The door is still open. It was always open. What kept you here was never the lock. It was the understanding, quiet, persistent, true. That walking through means leaving something behind, not a wrong thing, just a thing that was you for a very long time. That understanding is not weakness. It is the most honest thing you have ever let yourself feel. The door will wait. What are you still protecting?